Hi everyone, Shrees here, your online therapist. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today I'm going to be talking more about my emotional unavailability post from last week and to really be exploring what do I do to help my relationship that I really believe is viable but isn't the way that I want it. And this is so important because I think what we naturally do is we react into the relationship in ways that can potentially sabotage the very thing that we're trying to create. So what happens to us? We can become bitter and jaded. We can become disillusioned and disappointed. We're just disappointed all the time, and we're sort of downcast and we're depressed even. We look for the wrongs, we look for the negatives. All of these things are understandable because of what has gone on in the relationship, and perhaps you feeling your needs aren't being met or you're not getting the love that you crave, etc. These are natural reactions, but also we need to be careful, because is that who we want to be? And if that's the place that we're relating from, it's very difficult to create goodwill and love and commitment from that place. So the checklist that I gave you last week spoke about, listen, if these things are happening in your relationship, this is viable. It may not be the way that you want exactly, but if these things are happening, we can work on it. And I'm going to discuss today how we work on each of those pieces. So the first thing I said is are they fundamentally kind, decent people? Okay, baseline. Are they? Do you know in your heart this is a good person? This is a really, really good person. This isn't a bad person trying to purposefully hurt me, purposefully put me down. They are good people. Reminding ourselves of that is really important. But also what's really important is us not turning a blind eye to quite serious anger problems, to narcissistic traits or tendency, to mental health issues that are not being addressed. Okay, these are things we have to see. What is on offer with this person? Okay, maybe it's anger, maybe it's mental health issues, maybe it's all sorts of things. And I guess that goes back to what I was saying before, which is we need to be careful that doesn't become us. We can become the people with anger issues. We can become the people with mental health issues because we are so obsessed or devastated or traumatized or reactive in the relationship that we're creating conflict, or certainly, playing our part in the conflict. And then we get unwell ourselves. The relationship becomes a bit toxic and we become unwell. And that is precisely what I want us to avoid. We need to be okay no matter what. So if we're losing ourselves, we need to catch ourselves. And when we're looking at our relationship, we need to think, what is on offer with this person? Are they kind and decent? Fundamentally, before I even think about anything else, are they good people? And if the answer is they kind of actually do these things that are quite abusive or morally go against what I believe in, we need to breathe into that and see that. We need to see that. The second thing is they know they have unhelpful behavior. Now, this is a tricky one because a lot of us lack insight into ourselves. I tell you guys, we are so good at blaming. We look outside of ourselves to blame, and we can do it, and our partner can do it. And often when I work with couples, it's just blame game. Well, he does that, and she does that, and why doesn't he just do this, and whatever. And we lack insight into ourselves. So if you're following me, I'm guessing you are developing insight into yourself. That's amazing. Keep doing that. And sometimes it's frustrating if our partner isn't. And then that means that they maybe don't have insight into what they are doing that might be unhelpful. That is extremely difficult, and that triggers us, so we need to be careful. So if someone, like I said in my last video, if someone the door is completely and utterly closed, we have to recognize that. Conversely, if someone does know, they're like, yeah, look, I know I'm bringing my baggage into this relationship. Of course I am, and there's stuff that I do, and my bad, that was wrong, and I'm sorry. And they can really have that kind of language and be that kind of open. Okay, that is something we can work with. We can work with that. Because a big part of relationship is learning to love each other. And in sharing a life, we have to communicate. You know, these things are simple but hard to really communicate, to navigate two people's, bringing two people into a life and navigating that takes a lot of communication, and it takes a lot of ability to see our own things and communicate that. So if your partner is able to recognize that they have some unhelpful behaviors, that is a brilliant sign, okay? That is a really, really, really good sign, so don't underestimate that. The next one is, do they care about you, but maybe they struggle to show it? This is a classic thing that we work on in couples therapy, is demonstrating love. Sometimes we deeply love each other, but really struggle to demonstrate it. And this is where the love languages can come in very, very helpfully, in that it's kind of, okay, well, if I know, my partner just loves me doing the dishes as an act of service, I can do that for them as a demonstration of my love. But what a lot of us get stuck in is having the feelings, really, having a lot of love, and thinking that because that's in us, that's being communicated and that's being demonstrated and that's being received. And sometimes it isn't. But if you know that your partner does love you, but might struggle to show it sometimes in the way that you want, this is what I want you to start noticing. Is start noticing what are they doing to demonstrate? Because often there is stuff. And it's a dynamic I see a lot in my male-female couples clients, is that men are often very acts of service. Men are very life admin. And for women, that isn't always what we want or what we see or what we describe as love or romance. But these are acts of love, make no mistake. So see that and see the care and the love that's coming from that place. If we can open our hearts to receive that, that is a big, big step to moving out of the disgruntlement and disillusionment into the truth, which is this is a loving relationship. There's love happening here. Also, I always speak about this basic respect. Okay, we all know things can become disrespectful in our arguments, in our conflict, in our unhappiness. It's easy to be disrespectful. But if you have a partner, and indeed you are able to be respectful, that's what we want. If there is just disrespect as part of your relationship, that is not a good sign. That, for me, is a real questionable thing about how viable is this relationship. Because respect is key. If there is no respect, problem. If there is a baseline of respect, again, do not underestimate that and do not minimize that. That is a beautiful thing. That is very, very loving. And that shows someone that has a real commitment to you and being a certain way with you and being caring of you. So that is really important. Sadly, it's not a given. It's not a given. Now, this is my favorite, of course. I'm a therapist. Are they open to working on themselves? Okay, again, we need to bring our emotional intelligence to this. Working on ourselves means different things for different people. So for us, we might be reading books, going on retreats, going to therapy, going to workshops, talking with our friends incessantly. That's great. And if that works for you, that is amazing. But that may not work for your partner, and that's okay. If they are people, and I think there's something important here about the gender thing here as well, and our conditioning in our society, is that don't forget, men are not brought up to ask for help. Men asking for help, it feels like a weakness for them. They are brought up to be independent, to sort out their own problems, to be strong. So all this going to therapy, talking about our feelings thing is still very, it isn't completely free and easy for men. So if your partner is working on themselves, but in ways that you perhaps, don't always fully acknowledge, so maybe they exercise, maybe they're into self-help books, maybe they go to coaches, maybe they, they speak to their friends, they speak to their family, all of these things are still about self-care, and it's still about developing the self, because there are people who don't do any of that. So what to do in this situation is validate what they are doing, acknowledge it and appreciate it. Because the trap that we can fall into is it isn't what we want, it isn't enough, they should be doing this, that, and the other thing. And so what happens with our partners, and in the dynamic that kind of happens there, is don't tell me what to do, or it's never enough what I do, so I'm not going to do anything. What I'm saying is actually take a step back and really be appreciative for what your partner is doing. Okay, to work on themselves and validate it, acknowledge it. Be really positive about it. And the more you are able to do that, the more open your partner will be to doing different things in the future, perhaps. And feeling that he has a teammate rather than a drill sergeant that he's going to do that with. Okay, I know this is a difficult one. But the more we acknowledge and validate what someone is doing, the more likely they're going to be open to doing more. The more we criticize someone for their lack and insufficiencies and not enoughs, the more fixed they may actually become. So that is a trap that we can fall into. So that's definitely something to be working on. So the next one is calm and loving moments. Calm and loving moments are what we all want. And if you are able to have these in your relationship, maybe not all the time, but if you are able to have those, that is a really, really good sign, because what that means is our nervous systems can relax with this person. If we're in a really toxic and unhealthy and probably unviable relationship, our nervous systems cannot relax. We're always a bit fizzy. We're always a bit anxious. We're always a bit eggshelly. Okay, our nervous systems are continually activated. If, however, there are moments when we can exhale, feel relaxed and safe, okay, this is viable, and these moments need to be prioritized and maximized. Whatever is going on in these moments needs to happen more, and whatever's going on for you and your body and how you're relating, you need to focus on creating that more and more in your life. Not telling them that that's what they need to do. You do that. You create that space. You be calm. You be gentle. You be affectionate. You have chill out time together that's really relaxed and nice. That needs to become a priority. And then all the other stuff, any kind of conflict or negativity or criticism, that needs to sort of ideally fade away. Because even if there are unresolved issues in your relationship, welcome to the world of relationships, we can get so fixated on fixing and things needing to be a certain way, and we sort of have this sort of unconscious belief that until all of that is sorted, I cannot be having the relationship that I want. And I guess what I'm suggesting is actually the more you're able to create loving, good, positive, encouraging vibes in your relationship, the more resource you'll have, the more goodwill you'll have, the more closeness you'll have to then tackle the issues that need to be resolved. Okay, not the other way around. So rather than, if you are sort of going on at someone and wanting something and are going into a bit of nagging and complaining, which we're all guilty of, try to reduce that and increase these calm, loving moments. Because when we feel loved, that's when we put the effort in. If we feel criticized and people are withholding, we don't feel loving. We don't think, oh yes, I'm going to do everything I can for this person. We go into fear and we often go into freeze. So that's what I'm saying. Let's move out of survival mode and just come into the space of calm, loving moments. That is what helps relationships grow, not the dissatisfaction and the upset and the not enough. I know it is hard, but that is what we're fighting for. So, and then I said, if your partner is in addiction recovery or is in some kind of a program or has some sort of mental health issue that they're receiving treatment for, okay, great. That is an amazing sign, because you've got someone who's willing to take responsibility for their stuff and to get on and do stuff and live in the solution rather than the problem. So that is beautiful. That is really, really, really beautiful. And it's sort of that kind of commitment can be easily dismissed sometimes. And actually, I guess what I'm saying is that if someone is showing you that that is what they are capable of doing, the level of self-care, the level of commitment, the level of discipline to be maintaining, going to treatment, working an addiction program, etc., that shows someone that really knows how to get on and do stuff. Okay, and again, it may not be exactly how you want, but that is definitely something to work with. And again, appreciate and validate their efforts so they're more likely to then be putting in the efforts to the work that needs to happen within the relationship. And this whole thing about, can I be myself with this person? I think this is a really useful sort of litmus test almost. How myself can I be? And I think, again, this is important because if things aren't the way that we want in a relationship, we pretzel ourselves. You know, we become these chameleons. We're trying to be who we think our partner wants us to be, and we're trying to be perfect, or we then get pissed off and we're angry, or, you know, and we're exhausted, we're super codependent, our anxious attachment is triggered and we're anxious all the time. It's sort of, that's not who we are. That is not who we are. So we've got to do all the work on ourselves to look after those parts of us that are so frightened. And yes, we want our partners to come in and do something different so we don't feel that way. But we fundamentally have to take responsibility for our behavior. And that's what I'm saying. It's like we need to be careful. We become so dependent and obsessed and fixated on the other person that they are suddenly now the answer to all our problems. And we need to be careful because we need to be okay no matter what. We need to have our baseline of who we are, and that's unshakable. And I want us to be who we are. And I think a part of this is about communication, because codependency, anxious attachment, pretzeling is all a communication. And the communication often is, please love me. Please show me that you care. And so that is why I've been doing the communication posts, because what I want is I really want to introduce new ways of communicating to get what we want. Because when we're complaining or when we're unhappy and when we're dissatisfied, it's sort of, we are communicating, but we're communicating in ways that probably are not going to get us what we want. So that's why in my communication skills series, it's like, learn phrases. Just recognize, okay, I can communicate without the anger, without the reactivity, without the blame, but I can communicate because I want you to communicate. I'm not saying play nice and bury all your feelings. No, no, no. I'm saying clean your own house, keep your dignity, and learn how to express what you need to express in a way that that other person might actually be able to hear and really maintains your self-respect. And that means having phrases. So I want you to be yourself, and we need to get back to ourselves so we can then be with our partners and be real and say, I'm scared, I'm worried about things, you know, oh, I wish we spent more time together, let's plan something nice. You know, we can communicate from the heart more because that's who we truly are. So that's the key one for me. And then that leads into my can we speak freely? And that's what I'm saying. It's like, let's speak real, let's be real. But that doesn't mean that we can just unleash whatever we want to say, however we want to say it. We can do that, and you probably have done that, and you've probably seen how successful that has been. So working on speaking, learning how to communicate with integrity and with calm, this is a big one, and it's really, really, really hard. And the thing with emotionally unavailable people, or perhaps avoidant people, is their sense of being flooded and being overwhelmed is so sensitive that us just talking in a little bit of upset is probably going to feel too much for them. And then we become these hysterical freaks, right? So that is not what I want for us. We would do well to sort of be able to communicate in a measured way, as I say, that is dignified and that is simple, but really shares what we are experiencing. Because we either sort of are unbridled self-expression, or we are kind of, no, that's it, withholding, and we're silent. And these seem to be our two places that we can operate. And no, we need to just be able to speak freely, speak our minds, but do it in a way that comes from the heart, that is self-respecting, respects the other person, but also gets our point across. Because when we're in reactivity, it just deviates and deflects into all sorts of other things, and we give people all the ammo they need to be going, oh, well, don't say that, and oh, but why'd you bring that thing in? And actually what you're trying to say, the deep core, important emotional thing that you're trying to communicate, gets completely lost. So practice the communication skills that I'm teaching you guys. Practice the self-soothing so you can speak and say what you need to say, but in a way that can actually be a conversation, or can just simply get your point across in a simple and meaningful way. So those are all things to be working on. And as you know, I'm going to develop all of this, but this is a good place to start. I really hope you found that helpful. Let me know your thoughts as ever, and I will see you next time.